The guy that I have my eyes on is Jimmy Ward because they took away a little bit of his value in the open market by putting him in the slot. And I imagine there are teams who are going to look at him as not being put in the slot. If you could, would you rather them pay Gipson more money or just bring Ward back and let Gipson go? Like, what would be the play there for you?
Well, here's the thing. Based on Spot Track, they're saying that in the open market, Jimmy Ward's value, when you look at other comparable players, he's right around $7 million. Which number one, I would imagine that he's looking to go back to safety. I don't think that you're going to be able to um have him negotiate against himself and trying to slot him as a slot corner. Because as he has said, the only reason he played slot is because Kyle told him he wanted to play. that was where that's where he had snaps for him.
Yeah.
Is that he basically said that Gipson is taking your job. And so if you want to play, you're going to play in a slot. So I don't think that is going to be an option. And I think Tashaun Gipson, he made $1 million last year. I think that a 2x or 2.5x bump for him, if the 49ers pay him $3 million, I think he's happy.
Yeah,
with a
that would
$3
be
million
interesting.
With a $3 million salary to be the starting safety. So you're not going to, whatever you're going to do, Jimmy Ward is not, I don't see it in the cards for him here as a starting safety, because I think there will be deals out there for him. Even if Spot Track is wrong and the number isn't 7 million, it's not going to be 2.5 or 3.
Yeah.
I just don't see that in the cards for him. So, I as much as I love Jimmy and would love to have him back, I just don't see where that happens, because I think it's much more likely that our slot is on the roster, be it somebody like Womack or Thomas or Knight, who was was on the practice squad. Even if we're saying that Demo is the 2, I don't know. Is Thomas back in the mix? Because I really still don't know what went on with him, because it seemed like at the end of the previous season that Thomas was the heir apparent to that 2 spot, because of the way he had played. And then obviously E-Man came back and took that job, and then my man just kind of fell off a cliff, it seemed like, kind of in a similar way to the way Demo's season had ended the previous season, where he was the one getting the reps and then he just kind of disappeared. That's what kind of happened with Thomas. So I don't know, but our history says that we don't really spend a whole lot of money on those positions when we have guys that we have invested draft capital in sitting on the roster. It seems like we want to give them every opportunity to take those jobs, rather than spending big money on free agents. If we just look back to last season and what happened with Tomlinson and Key and DJ Jones, those roster spots were filled with guys who were on the roster already. So it's going to be interesting to see how free agency shakes out. But then you can also, if you want to push back on me, you can point to that big money signing of Mooney was not really. It was kind of out of character, but then if you go back, you look at it, you could point to the Richard Sherman signing as a precedent there. So while I'm someone who, and I've had people in these forums push back on me about how nothing, there's, is nothing as a precedent. If it's never just the fact that it's never happened before doesn't 100% guarantee that it won't happen, in the future.
Mhm.
But just the way my mind works is I'm always looking for comps and, you know, playing the percentages more so than saying, well, anything could happen. Well, you're
Right,
right. I
right.
guess
Yeah,
anything could happen, but
that's not analysis.
exactly. I would much rather look at what the precedents have been, and that I spend a lot of time looking at how our cap breaks down. Where do we normally spend money? How do we allocate our resources? Where do we allocate our resources to try to determine what I believe is probable to happen? Does that mean that that's what's going to happen? Of course not. But I think just the way my mind works, that is how when I fill out my little cap sheet, which I know doesn't mean anything because I'm not the GM. John Lynch's cap sheet is the one that
Yeah, but
makes.
but when you do that exercise, you sort of understand how hard it is, and you understand where, if they have to make a hard decision as a fan, you're like, yeah, I get it, because I was looking at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when people say, "Hey, let's sign Jalen Ramsey or trade for Jalen Ramsey," I mean, okay, but I just went through this exercise specifically. We have never spent more than 17% of our cap in the secondary. That's all players locked in. We are sitting right now at 12% of the cap. If you add Jalen Ramsey, that pushes us up to 20%. I guess and doing that, we still don't have a starting safety.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you're gonna have to trade for him with the Rams.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that could happen.
Yeah.
But it seems highly unlikely that Jalen Ramsey is the answer